Good morning, students. So today I shall be discussing about the topic called General Guidelines of Programming. The first general guideline for a good programming is the use of KISS principle, where KISS stands for keep it short and simple. The time spent in writing a code is negligible in terms of reading and modifying it. This is because any code is written just once, but it can be read 100 times. Therefore, one should apply the KISS principle, which stands for keep it short and simple, while developing a code for a program. The program developed should be structured and modular, with simple logic to solve the problem. Do not use lengthy code for all the functionalities in a one function or method. Instead, use the KISS principle to make the code short and simple. Use structured and modular approaches to divide a big problem into simpler and smaller tasks. And that will eliminate writing of lengthy code for all the functionalities in one function or a method. The programmer has to divide the problem logically and then develop separate functions or methods for each functionality, and then execute each of these functions or methods individually, and then integrate it together to solve the complete problem. The next general guideline for a good programming is the use of indentation. A proper indentation increases the readability of a program. A programmer should use proper indentation according to the nesting levels. Now, if you look at this piece of code, it has different nesting levels pertaining to the while loop and the if statement. This portion denotes the nesting level of the if statement, and this entire portion denotes the nesting level of the while loop. The if statement is contained within the while loop. Now, if you look at this piece of code, the indentation here is not proper. Okay, so due to improper indentation, it becomes very difficult for any user to read this piece of code. But if you look at this piece of code, here the nesting level of the if statement as well as the nesting level for the while loop are properly indented. So this is the portion of the if statement inside this method called public void calc, and the nesting level is properly indented. This is the nesting level of the while loop, which is also properly indented. Now if you look at this piece of code, there is a proper gapping between the nesting level of the main method, which is the void calc method, and then the nesting level of the while loop and the if statement. So with the proper indentation, any user shall easily read this piece of code. The user can easily find out which is the opening and the closing parenthesis for the if statement, the opening and the closing parenthesis for the while loop, as well as the opening and the closing parenthesis for the method called void calc. But with this piece of code, it becomes very difficult for the user to find out which is the opening and the closing parenthesis for the if statement, the while loop, and the method called void calc. This is because there is no proper indentation in the nesting levels of the if statement, the while loop and the void calci method. So do not follow the indent procedure in this piece of code. Instead, follow the indent rule that is shown in this piece of code. The next general guideline for a good program is the identifier naming conventions. The name of variables declared in a program, the name of methods, and the name of classes should be short and meaningful. Programmers should follow the naming conventions imposed by a programming language. That means every programming language has a particular standard of declaring variables in a program, declaring methods and classes in a program. And we call that standard as a syntax of the particular programming language. And every programmer should follow the naming conventions imposed by that particular programming language. The next general guideline for a good programming is statement separation and clarity. To increase the readability and comprehension of code, the programmers should always write a single statement per line. Writing more than one statement in a single line brings improper indentation in a program, and thereby it decreases the readability of the program. There should be proper spaces between the operator and the operands. We call the symbols plus, minus, the asterisk stands for multiplication, the slash stands for division as the operators, and we call the variables as the operands. For example, if a equal to 2 and b equal to 3, then the expression a plus b shall be equal to 2 plus 3, which is 5. Okay, and in this expression a plus b, plus stands for the operator and a and b stands for the operands. Okay, so in that case the operands a and b holding the values 2 and 3 respectively has been added together with the help of the plus operator. Okay, the next general guideline for a good program is the use of proper comments. It is a good practice to add comments to the important lines of code with proper descriptions. This helps future programmers when there is a need of modifying the code. The programmers should choose between single line and multi-line comments logically. So the addition of comments helps a programmer to trace out the portion of the code which needs modification. Single line comments can be given with the help of this double slash. Now here this commented line indicates variable declaration section. That means in these two lines I have declared two variables, that is first number and second number, separated by comma whose data type is float. And then I have declared another variable called result whose data type is also float. Now as this portion of the code declares three variables which are first number, second number and result, so this portion of the code denotes that it is a variable declaration section, and I have represented this portion using the commented line which is variable declaration section as shown just above the two declaration statements. As this is a commented line, so it is being preceded with this double slash symbol. Okay, remember that any commented line has to be preceded by double slash symbol if it is a single line comment. Similarly, in this portion of the code, I have initialized the variable first number to the value num1, the variable second number to the value num2, and then the variable result to the value 0. And that's why I have commented this portion as variable initialization section with this double slash symbol. And in the same way, since this is the calculation section which calculates the result when the first number is divided by the second number, that's why I have commented it as calculation section. So that's how the use of proper comments helps any programmer to trace out a portion of the code of a program. And if any modification is required, he can easily do so by tracing out that particular piece of code in that program. The next general guideline for a good programming is developing the code block. The programmers should divide the code in logical segments like the variable declaration block, the variable initialization block, the logic block, and the error handling block. Now, in this piece of code, there is a method indicated by the name divide which returns a floating point value. And this is the region of code inside the body of the method called divide, which is represented by this opening parenthesis and the closing parenthesis. This portion denotes the variable declaration block, where three variables, first number, second number, and result has been declared with the data type as float. And it is indicated by this commented line variable declaration section. This portion of the code represents the variable initialization block, okay, where the variable first number has been initialized with the value of num1, the variable second number has been initialized with the value of num2, and the variable result has been initialized with the value 0. And this has been indicated with the help of this commented line variable initialization section. This portion denotes the logic block, okay, where the variable result holds the value when the first number is divided by the second number. So here the logic is such that the value of the first number shall be divided by the value of the second number, and then the final result shall be stored in this variable called result. Since the logic includes the calculation where the first number gets divided by the second number to produce the result, that's why I have indicated that portion with the help of this commented line as calculation section. Now see, the next part of the code block is the error handling block. Now if you look at this portion, I have enclosed this logic portion in a try block, so that in case if any error occurs and it gets detected by the compiler, it can be easily handled in this catch block. Say for example, when you divide the first number by the second number where the value of the second number is 0, then it will produce a value which is undefined. This is because dividing any number by 0 produces an undefined value. And since the value is undefined, that's why the compiler will not be able to assign that particular value to the variable called result. So this part of the statement brings the division by zero error, and immediately that sort of division by zero error shall be brought to the notice of this catch block, and the catch block shall handle that particular error by giving a suitable message to the user. So depending upon the type of error which is encountered in this try block by the compiler, the catch block shall handle that error or the exception and display a suitable message to the user. And this is how this error handling block takes place using try and catch. The next general guideline for a good programming is the inclusion of module description. At the beginning of a module, it is a good practice to describe the functionality or the operations performed by the module. Now this was the same piece of Java code, okay, with the method name divide having the return type value float. This part denotes the variable declaration section. This part denotes the variable initialization section. This part denotes the calculation section. And this part denotes the error handling section, where the error gets handled by executing this statement inside this catch block. In this case, the error encountered in this try block with this statement, where the first number gets divided by the second number, shall get handled in this catch block, where the cause of the error has been displayed to the user as a message. Now since this method called divide has a return type called float, that's why it is returning a floating point value at the end, okay, and that is the value of the variable called result, and this is indicated by the statement return result. The variable result has been declared with the data type float in the variable declaration section. Now the logic of this entire piece of Java code is such that the value of the first number has to be divided by the second number, and then the final value should get supplied and stored into this variable called result. And that's why I have indicated the logic of this program by giving a module description at the very beginning using a multi-line comment. Okay, the module description says this method divides the first number by second number and returns result. Okay, now note that this module description consists of 2 lines. Okay, so it is not a single line comment, it is a multi-line comment which consists of 2 lines. And for multi-line comments like this, we indicate it as /* at the very beginning of the comment and / at the very end of the comment. So keep in mind that for putting single line comments, we denote it as // at the very beginning. But for putting multi-line comments, we denote it as /* at the very beginning and then // at the very end. So I hope that is clear, and with this I end my presentation here, as well as I end the chapter 11.